We're struggling. He wasn't crying like he should have. Okay, here you are again. Until his daddy gets back, he's gonna want to be in this video. Okay, so basically this is gonna be my labor and delivery story, and the postpartum afterwards. I'm just gonna be talking about all that time. I'm not gonna be talking about what happened to lead up to this point, or like my health issues. That you will hear a little bit about them, but that's gonna be a whole nother video. Big boy's on his jammies. He loves the camera like his mommy, right? It was a Saturday. I don't remember the exact day. I remember the day that I went in because I was induced. But so I went in to be induced on a Tuesday. So the Saturday before that Tuesday, I went into the hospital because I was suffering from PUPS. If you don't know what that is, I don't remember the exact name. It's like periodic something plaques and papules of pregnancy. Doctor said that it was common, but not in the case that I had it. And I will insert a picture right here, a few pictures over here of how severe it was in my case. And basically we took so many ER trips at the end of my pregnancy, because with this rash you insanely itch. It feels like your body is literally on fire. That's how it felt with me. I was just so miserable. I couldn't even sleep, and it was scary because it kept spreading. So I went into the ER that Saturday, and this is where it all kind of starts, the week leading up to having him. So when I go in, it's the same thing. I'm telling them what's going on, and the medicine that my doctor has prescribed me wasn't working. But I was hoping that every time I went in, they would induce me or do something, because I was so miserable, and I just felt so sick. Give me some Benadryl to see if that would help. Of course it didn't. My blood pressures at this time, they were fine. They did do lab work. So if I would have not went in this Saturday, I feel like things would have been worse. He's talking in the back. I feel like things would have been worse if I wouldn't have trusted my instinct. Billy had called in to take me, because even he at this point was just like, what the hell, And so they did lab work. Checked everything to see if this rash was affecting my kidneys or my liver or just my body in general. All that they had came back and told me was that your potassium levels are low. Everything else looks fine. Your blood pressure is fine. You just need to take this potassium pill. And so at this point, I was already taking iron, prenatal potassium now, and the pills were huge, and I struggle with swallowing pills, so I just had to crush them. But okay, so that is one little thing leading up to, wait a minute, potassium levels were low. I'm just going to say that and leave it at that, because I want that whole part to be in another video. But so they sent me home to take that, and I had a doctor's appointment Monday. Some time for that doctor's appointment, I'm just so miserable at this point, and I go in. Of course they check me. I'm still only out of 1. I'm not showing any signs of labor, and I was like 38 weeks and 4 days or something. And so at this point, like, I was huge and miserable. I'll insert a picture of how big I was, because I had excess fluid and a big baby. Scheduled me for induction finally, but that wasn't until that following Sunday. So this was Monday, and he was wanting to induce me like a whole week later, where I'd be almost 40 weeks, and I was just so miserable at this point, and I love my doctor. I definitely go back to him again, because I feel like literally he saved my life, so that's just like a special connection I have with him now. And of course I will always use him if I ever have another baby. Check my blood pressure, the whole routine checkup. They checked my urine, and there was no protein in it or anything, so everything was looking fine. I didn't ask about what my blood pressure was. And at this point, I already had a home blood pressure monitor because I did have a little scares here and there, so I could check it at home. I remember he came in and I was swollen. Not that bad yet, but I was swollen. And he looked at me and was like, oh, you're swollen. Do you have any headaches? And I was like, no, not really. But still at this point, I did not ask where my blood pressure was. And I am such a person that's like nosy and just like, I'm so particular about my health that I want to know like everything, like, or else I will just have anxiety about it. But I didn't ask, and I don't know what was in my head at this point. So, and that night I couldn't sleep because like I was so swollen, I was so itchy, I had a headache, my head was like throbbing, and it just never clicked in my head like, could this be my blood pressure or something? So I remember I was just really sick, TMI, running to the bathroom a lot, and I just couldn't sleep. And I had texted Billy because I was staying at my mom's that night. I don't know, I just wanted her comfort. I found comfort in staying with her, and I actually slept in bed with her. I was 19, but like I wanted to sleep by my mom, so I couldn't sleep. And the next morning I go back over to my dad's, and I'm sitting there and I'm trying to take a nap, and I can't, I'm so miserable. And so at this point I was like, you know what, I'm gonna take my blood pressure. So I take it, and then it was like 150/100. And I was like, what the hell? Like, you know what I mean? Like, that explains why I'm swollen and my head's pounding. So immediately I called the doctor. And I was like, what was my blood pressure yesterday at my appointment? And they were like, it was 140/100. And I was like, are you serious? Are you serious? Like, they should have sent me to the hospital right then and there with all the symptoms I was having, you know. These were a million red flags. And so I told them what my blood pressure was and how terrible I feel. And she was all like, okay, go straight to the hospital and we will meet you there. So at this point, Billy was at a safety meeting for his work. I didn't have a way to get a hold of him because he can't have his phone there. So I hadn't showered. Okay, this is gross, but I had not showered in like 3 days because I was so sick and miserable that I could not function. And so I literally looked so bad, and I didn't even wear a bra to the hospital, nothing. I didn't have any of my bags packed because I was so unprepared. So at this point we show up to the safety meeting, me and my dad, and we at the time they were already finished, they were all coming out of the building, and I immediately am just like, where's Billy, where's going insane, you know, because at this point I was just like, oh my god, I gotta get to the hospital now. We find him, he hops in the back seat, we go back to my dad's house, and I have the diaper bag, that's all I have, and I just throw it in the bag because at this point I knew. And he drives my car to the hospital, and he just started monitoring me. Okay, so now I'm going to pause and talk about, for me, my whole life, I've always had this like irrational fear of being a mom and giving birth. It just never felt right to me. Like, I just never pictured myself being a mom. So I'm a believer in science. I know that sounds crazy, but we get checked in, we're in our room, and just like all these weird things just start happening. Like, I don't know, like the freaking TV just started losing signal. The first thing that they do, you know, they check your urine, my blood pressure, they got my blood pressure to come down. So the doctor gets up there, the nurse comes in and sees me. I'm so thankful for her. And they tell me that they're looking for HELLP and preeclamptic things on, and so they check my blood again, and within an hour the other nurse comes back in and says, you're having a baby. And I was like, what? Like, what? No, like, I wasn't ready, oh my god. And she was like, yep, you're having him tomorrow. And I was like, so what's going on? And she said, your blood came back, and they compared it to the blood draw that they had took that previous Saturday, and my liver enzymes were increasing, and so that just showed like my liver was getting inflamed at this point, which made sense with the rash that I had, my blood pressures, stuff like that. And so also my platelets were low, helps your blood clot. And so that was really scary because it just meant like I'm about to give birth, like I'm gonna bleed a lot, and I just am at risk for hemorrhaging. I was only dilated to a 1 still, and they start the Cervidil, and things just like, I don't know. I mean, I was happy. I was really happy, but it just felt so bad. The Cervidil in for only 12 hours, and Billy had stayed with me that night. And so at 7 a.m. they took the Cervidil out, and I think it was like a 2 or 3 in between there, and he was gonna start Pitocin 30 minutes after that and break my water at the same time. And he told me, he was like, okay, you can get the epidural any minute now, like telling me like this is about to get painful, because Pitocin makes your contractions super painful, and then getting your water broke too also intensifies contractions. So like I got those at the same time. So I was like, okay, no, like I want to wait a little bit. And I got to a 5 before I got the epidural. And let me tell you, I was literally like screaming in my mom's face in pain. Like I was so, oh my gosh, that was the worst pain of my life. It didn't work right, like I don't know. So with me, they had to make sure that I could get the epidural because I had low platelets, so I'm at increased risk for bleeding. So I started dilating about a centimeter every hour. So at about 8 o'clock, I was dilated to a 10. Stayed at a 10 for literally almost 4 hours because he would not come down. So we were just waiting and waiting and waiting. And I started to get like more sick. I started to get a temperature, a fever. I started to get a fever, and my head just started pounding. My blood pressure was going up. I remember just feeling so bad, and the alarm that takes your blood pressure just kept going off. He calmed down, you know. And I was like, no, this is ridiculous. Like, I'm freaking dying here, you know, being dramatic. And the nurse was giving me home because she was like, oh, you're almost there. And the doctor comes in and was like, no, like she's going nowhere. I'm going to give her 30 more minutes. And at this point, I was already pushing for like 2 hours. And I'm going to give her 30 more minutes. And if there's no change at this point, like there's nothing more we can do. Like it obviously means something. We'll just have to do a C-section because I was already in labor for a really long time. I was starting to get a fever. But a C-section was the last thing I needed. And honestly, I was really scared because I already was at risk for bleeding and I was about to have a major surgery. And I finally came to terms with it. I was like, okay, I'll get to meet my son, you know. And then the anesthesiologist came in and was like, we might have to put you under completely. And I was like, no, hell no. I had never had a surgery before, so literally like my anxiety is so bad. I was like, I don't care if I feel the freaking C-section. I don't want to be put under. And what do you know? So they wheeled me back for the C-section, you know, numbed me, and it... Okay, so he's like, I'm about to make an incision. And I was like, okay, I can't feel it, you know. And then I couldn't, but as soon as he started to cut inside my body, I just started screaming bloody murder. I mean, screaming bloody murder. I was like, I effing feel that. Oh my God, stop. And he cried once, and they took him over there to clean him off. And Billy went to go get him. He held him, he brought him to me. And I looked at him, I was like, and my first words to Ashley Ray was, oh my God, he has a dimple. Then the nurses had to take him immediately because we were struggling. He wasn't crying like he should have. He only cried once. To recovery by myself for literally an hour. I didn't get to see anybody, not even my own baby. I will insert pictures right here. He was 8 pounds, 12 ounces. He was 20 inches long, and he was born at 3:38 a.m. So I went in 7 p.m. the 17th, and he was born July 19th at 3:38 a.m. So I'm going to go ahead and end this video right here because it's already 15 minutes long and I didn't think it'd be this long. And I think I'm going to put the rest of it into a different video when I talk about what exactly led up to this. So yeah, thank you for watching.